We are now coming up to a house where a couple young men grew up and became Southern rock legends.
Right behind us over here is the Van Zant family home. Ronnie, Donnie, and Johnny grew up here with their parents in this house right here. In this video, we're going to take you around their town, their hometown, here in Jacksonville, Florida. And there are some interesting places to show you. We're going to tell you how they got their name. We're going to show you where the guy's buried, that they got the name from. And I'll give you a little hint, it's in the same cemetery as some of the other Van Zants. Plus, we're going to show you where the Van Zants are buried. We're going to tell you about the crash. We got a lot to cover. It's going to be exciting. And this is an exciting one for us because we're both big Lynyrd Skynyrd fans. We love Skynyrd. I've actually seen them in the newer version live. Awesome show. Can't wait to look around at the Leonard Skinner sites here in Jacksonville. And we cordially invite you to come along for the adventure.
Come along. The Van Zant's father, Lacey, he basically built this house with his own two hands. It started off as only a two-room shack.
Yeah, he built it out from there. And actually back when the band was really hitting it big, they would send home their gold and platinum records. They say the walls of this house were lined with them as they were selling millions of albums. Now, a local man bought the house and he decided he wanted to put the marker out here, and he actually got the city to pay for half of it. He paid for the other half. And there's a camera over here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, it's over here, hidden behind the tree over there. That's to keep an eye on the sign. It's not because he's afraid of people trespassing or anything like that. It's because he's concerned that someone would steal this sign. He thought, oh, that'd be something that somebody would think would be cool in their basement, in their man cave or whatever. So he's got some security there, and he put up the fence as well to try to keep people away from that sign. Musicians Ronnie, Donnie, and Johnny Van Zant spent their formative years growing up in this house with their sisters and parents between the 1950s and 1980s. A serendipitous foul ball hit by Ronnie Van Zant at a nearby park struck future bandmate Bob Burns in the head, knocking him unconscious. This chance encounter led to what would become one of the most famous, hardest-working rock and roll bands in the world, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Of course, tragedy cut short the original incarnation of Lynyrd Skynyrd when 4 members of the band, including lead singer Ronnie Van Zant, died in a plane crash in Mississippi on October 20th, 1977.
Could this be the original Van Zant family mailbox here still after all these years? That would be crazy. We've got some really exciting news, Skynyrd fans. You can actually spend the night in the former Van Zant family home. That's right, it's available to rent online. This is the same exact street that Johnny used to walk down and collect bottles so he could take them in and return them to have a little bit of cash.
Yeah, he talks about it in the song, The Ballad of Curtis Lowe. He would take it down to a store that's not very far at all from their childhood home. So let's head over there now and take a look at the store. Come on. In The Ballad of Curtis Lowe, Ronnie talks about bringing his soda bottles down to the country store, and he's talking about this exact store right here. This is the one he brought the soda bottles down to get a little change, to give that money to Curtis Lowe to hear him sing all day.
Now it's called Sunrise.
Here's the sign for Sunrise Food Store. And a gentleman over here trying to keep the store nice and clean for all the Skynyrd fans. Come by and check it on out.
We are now going to head on over to the school where the boys got the name Lynyrd Skynyrd.
It's a school they attended. There was a teacher there they didn't like. Well, anyway, we'll tell you the whole story when we get over there, so let's make our way on over. Here's a look at the entranceway of the school, probably the exact same entranceway the boys of Lynyrd Skynyrd used to walk through on their way into class.
We are now at Robert E. Lee High School where the boys attended school.
They had long hair. Back then, of course, they always had long hair, but here, they didn't like it too much at Robert E. Lee. In particular, there was one teacher who didn't like it. Now, let's go back a minute here and think about the name of the band originally was My Backyard. After that, it was The Noble Five. And then it was The 1%. Now, they kept getting made fun of as The 1%, and Ronnie didn't like it one bit. People in the crowd would be yelling out, yeah, you got 1% talent and stuff like that. They kept hearing it over and over. And Ronnie said, we need a new name. So one of the guys in the band said, well, how about we name it after that teacher that keeps getting us in trouble at school? This guy was a pain in their neck, and his name was Lynyrd Skynyrd, with an R, no D. And it wasn't spelled with all those Y's, but Lynyrd Skynyrd. and he was tough on the boys. He was a PE teacher here, a coach. He used to be a corporal in the Army also. So this was a tough guy, and he didn't put up with their nonsense, and he didn't like their long hair. So they kind of named it after him, kind of like saying, we don't like the guy. Turns out years later on, they actually got along with him, and the guy came out to one of their shows here in Jacksonville, and he introduced the band from on stage, and now he's buried near them, which when we get to the cemetery, we'll show you that, and that's coming up in just a minute.
It's really interesting to think about how long the school might be around for.
We are now at Bowl School. This is the same school that Lynyrd Skynyrd played at during prom in 1972.
There's something else interesting that happened that night as well. Billy Powell, who was a roadie for the band, well, this was his final night as a roadie for the band. That's because during a break, Billy got up, played on the piano an intro to Free Bird that he had created. Ronnie loved it, and he made Billy an official member of the band as the piano player for the band, so we went from roadie to piano player. Pretty cool.
Now we are headed to a place that might surprise you to be in a Lynyrd Skynyrd story.
We now arrived at a church where the Van Zant boys used to perform at different times in different bands, known as the 38 Special, the Johnny Van Zant Band, and also, of course, Lynyrd Skynyrd.
That's pretty awesome that a church let bands, local kids from the community, rock and roll bands, come on in there and play. They did it as an outreach for the community. This is Church of the Good Shepherd here in Jacksonville.
Now we are on our way to the first of two cemeteries that we're going to visit today.
We are now at Jacksonville Memorial Garden, where Ronnie was first buried.
Yeah, we're at the actual original location. Right here behind us is where he was originally buried, but he is not buried here anymore, and that's because of an unfortunate incident. This happened around June 30th, sometime in that week of the year 2000. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning when vandals came over here. They actually broke into the backside, got in there, pulled his coffin out. Police say that apparently they didn't take anything out of it. Steve Gaines, the guitarist, was buried right there. His ashes were, they actually got into his urn and spilt a very small fraction of his ashes. About 1% fell out of the bag. Someone in the area heard a commotion, called the police. Police got here at 3 o'clock and saw everything torn up, and of course the coffin laying out here in the ground.
After that, his body was moved here.
We are now at Riverside Memorial Park, where Ronnie Van Zant's body was moved after it was vandalized.
Yeah, and the family did not want anybody to know, of course, it makes sense, where he was buried here, or even that he was buried here, so there was no marker for a long time. Now, there is a marker right here, and fans come by and show their respects at this spot. However, according to a close family friend, he's not actually even buried there. It's actually way over here, underneath this bench, where he's currently buried. But he's buried under tons of cement, concrete, making it very difficult. You'd have to have like construction equipment in order to dig his body out from this location.
Right over here, we have Ronnie's oldest daughter, Tammy's future gravesite. She wrote a song in 2009 called Freebird Child.
For those of you who want to come out here and see the graves for yourself, they're very easy to find. You'll come in here. Is the main office right over here. You just pull in here, and it's right here on the first left. There's a set of bushes. There it is, right in front of the bushes.
On his grave, people left pennies, a guitar pick, a bird, and an angel, along with various other things.
We are still in the same cemetery as the Van Zant family. However, we did make it over to the other side to find something that's really cool.
This is pretty interesting to me. Corporal Leonard Skinner, the coach, the PE teacher, the strict guy that was so tough on these boys and that they named the band after, is buried right over here. F. Leonard Skinner. Here's a look at his headstone. F. Leonard Skinner, Corporal, U.S. Army, Korea, 1933 to 2010. Dedicated coach. We're coming up to Edgewater Landing. It was in this neighborhood. Of course, it wasn't a neighborhood back then. It was just a wooded area, and they had a house in there. It was a shed. The boys wanted to get away. They kept getting in trouble. Neighbors were complaining they were too loud. When they were practicing, it was way too loud, so they had to move into this house in the woods. And we might be getting lucky here because it's a gated community, but it looked like when we drove by just a second ago that everything's wide open. So let's drive in there. We're going to tell you more about this when we get in the community. Here we go. Let's see. It's wide open today.
Wide
Get locked in there. So this is where the Hell House was.
Wow. Some of the best songs that were ever written were written right here by the river behind us.
Yeah, in this wooded area. This is where the boys found that shed, a dilapidated shed in the woods. There was no neighborhood here at the time. Now they've built some new houses, but at the time it was just a wooded area, and they were able to just jam out, and they were really hard working too. They would jam out for hours and hours trying to perfect every song and writing new music. Now this house didn't have any air conditioning. Now we're in Jacksonville, Florida, and it gets hot down here in Florida. So they were sweating, and it was tough. Sometimes they'd even get into fights, Heather was reading, and it got a little rough. So they named the place Hell House because of how hot it was inside of the house. Now the dock is right down here behind us that they used to sit at and fish. And up around here somewhere is where the house was. There was a concrete slab for a while set up. That's gone, so we don't know the exact location of the house, but we see some remnants of it around, which we're going to show you, and we'll look around some more.
Over here we found some black tubing sticking out of the ground. We also found some over here. We're pretty sure that it had something to do with the Hell House.
You might not know this about Ronnie, but he absolutely loved to fish. And right here is a dock that he used to fish off of a lot.
That's right, this dock right here, although this is not the original, but the original is actually up underneath it. We're going to go over here and get a better look, but he used to come down here and spend many hours fishing right here in this little river.
This isn't the actual dock that the boys used to hang out on. The original one is located underneath it. You can see right here. They used to often fish and hang out on the dock and enjoy themselves. We'd like to give a special shout out to GTA 5 Videos.
A nice young man we met while filming this video. We'll put a link to his page down below.
We figured that we'd fill you in on a little bit of really interesting information, is that this property is actually for sale now.
That you can live where the Skynyrd Hell House actually sat. You can build your little house right here if you want to buy this property. How cool is that? Some of the best songs, some of the most well-known songs of all time are written right here, and you could own the property. Y'all be sure to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you can come along with us on future adventures.
Come along.